Hi everyone, and welcome to our webinar today, Optimize Your Dealership Website for Conversion Without Frustrating Your Customers. My name is Deborah Wolf. I am the Content Marketing Manager here at Auto Leadstar, and we are really excited that you have joined us today for our webinar. So today we're going to be talking about making the most of your dealership website, making sure it's converting in the best way possible, and we're going to focus mostly on pop-ups or overlays. You probably have seen pop-ups on other people's websites. You may already be using them on your own dealership website. And pop-ups have a lot of potential to add value to your dealership, but they also have a lot of potential to frustrate your customers and scare them away. Today we're going to talk about the difference between those pop-ups that work for the good and those that work for the bad, and we're going to talk about how you can use pop-ups to optimize your dealership website and not fall into some of the common pop-up pitfalls. So most of us have a very bad image of pop-ups in our head. We think of them like mosquitoes, annoying, invasive, intrusive, bothersome, right? They tend to pop up when we least want them and they don't help us, okay? So that can be true, and for example, I'll show you an example of a pop-up that doesn't do a great job. Okay, so if you look at this pop-up, this example, there are a lot of things that are not ideal here. For one thing, if you look at the top right-hand corner, there's sort of an urgency built in here. Fill out the form in the next minute to get this offer. And right, sometimes urgency can really help people, right, to give them a time limit. That can help move people along. But this type of urgency can be a little too much because the visitor has just arrived on site a minute ago. They don't really know what they're looking at yet. So to ask them to fill out a form with their information right away can be a little bit too much pressure. Other things about this form that are less than ideal, okay? One thing is that the design here is not great. It kind of gives me a headache, actually. There's a lot going on. It's very busy. And the colors and design don't seem particularly connected to what's going on behind it on the dealership website. You'll also notice that in the lower right-hand corner of the screen, there's another pop-up that appears at the same time. So a visitor might be confused about where to look first. Okay, it's a little distracting. It can be a little overwhelming. Okay, and when you're used to seeing things like this, you might have the negative association of pop-ups that we spoke about. The truth is, though, that pop-ups can really work. And to give an example that's not specifically from auto, but I think is relevant, right? If we look at the website entrepreneur.com, pop-ups help them increase their subscriptions by 86%, increase their sales by 162%. Okay, so that's an example of a pop-up really working. And if we want to get industry specific, okay, we find that our clients at Auto Leadstar who use our pop-ups see up to a 30% lift in lead capture. So that can be really useful. So the thing to remember with pop-ups is that they can be used for good or they can be used for bad. Like any other tool, they are really just a tool. They have no value on their own. Okay, they're valuable only to the extent that they help you do something. And that something, in this case, is to create a positive, personalized website experience that engages users and gets them excited about converting on your website. When you think about it, they're really just like salespeople in your store. Okay, a salesperson who crowds you, who approaches too soon, who's intrusive, right, who asks you too many questions, that type of salesperson makes people want to leave and not come back. But somebody who responds to what you want, who's trying to make a better experience for you, who helps you find what you're actually looking for, okay, that salesperson is really valuable. Okay, and so the same thing can be true for pop-ups. They're really a tool for good or for evil, depending on how you use them. So pop-ups are not the worst. Bad pop-ups are the worst. Great pop-ups, on the other hand, are a powerful tool for conversion optimization. And just to get a definition out there of conversion optimization, it's a comprehensive strategy to maximize a website to engage more users and convert more leads. Pop-ups can be a really powerful part of that, They can take all the great things that you already have on your website and capitalize on your users' excitement and interests. They can speak to your users' interests. They can grab them in the moment when they're really looking at your content and they're excited about it, and help them take that next step and move forward in their buying process. So how do we make pop-ups that are actually good? What makes a good pop-up, and how can you create a campaign with them that's really effective? So we want to break that down into 5 aspects, okay? 5 aspects of good pop-ups, and we're going to get into each one of them in detail with examples. And that's what we'll spend the majority of this webinar doing today, going through these aspects that make a good pop-up. The first is functionality, the second, design, the third, value, targeting, and mobile optimization. So let's get into the first one. Okay, when we talk about functionality, we're talking about how your users interact with this pop-up and how this pop-up interacts with your users. For example, okay, you want to know how this pop-up is dismissed. Is it easy to dismiss it? Is it easy to minimize it? Okay, is it easy, when you minimize it, does it stick around? Does it follow you around? Does it cover other content? And we also are talking about the number and type of fields. Okay, so how many fields are there? Are they easy to fill out? Okay, do they take a lot of time and a lot of effort? So that's functionality, how your user interacts with it. So let's look at an example. So here's an example of a pop-up that is less than ideal when it comes to functionality. Now it does have one good thing about it. If you notice the X in the top right corner, okay, that lets the user get rid of this pop-up if they want to, and that's really important, right? Anytime a user lets us know, I'm not interested in that, I don't want to hear more about that, I don't want to give you my details, it's important to respect that and take that no for an answer. So in that sense, this pop-up is doing well. In other ways, it's doing less well. Mainly, its functionality is asking for too much. These fields ask for a lot of information, not only name, but also phone, email, zip code. Okay, it's a lot of information. And keep in mind that this is a pop-up that appeared the moment I arrived on site. So that's before I've had a chance to figure out if I can find what I'm looking for. I don't really know if this is offering me the value that I want. Okay, so it's really too soon to ask me for so much information. That functionality is not doing great. Contrast that with a pop-up like this one, where there are 4 fields. They're very clear. They're very straightforward. Okay, and this pop-up sort of speaks to a person who is still at the beginning stages of shopping. It even says window shopping, right? And it doesn't ask for the person. It doesn't ask too much information from the shopper. So when you think about functionality, think about how easy is it for the shopper to interact with this overlay. Okay, moving on to design. And here we have a number of aspects that go into a great pop-up design. First of all, colors and branding. Okay, and when we talk about that, we mean, does this pop-up look like the rest of your site? Does it look like maybe even your physical showroom? Does it reflect the colors and images and branding that customers are used to associating with you? Also important is the copy. What does the actual text on this offer say? Is it clear? Is it straightforward? Okay, and that relates to the call to action buttons. Are those clear and straightforward? Do they reflect the same message as the rest of the copy? Okay, so for example, if you're offering an offer on a specific VDP, you might say something in your call to action like get offer, right? Something that's straightforward, something that's consistent. Another thing to think about with call to action buttons is the colors. Are they appealing? Do they grab the eye? Do they grab the attention? Okay, those are also things to keep in mind. And finally, we have on design to think about whether this pop-up is appearing at a time when it's competing with other pop-ups. Okay, and that sort of forces the visitor to decide where to look, and that can be a difficult and distracting moment for the customer, which brings us to our final aspect of design, which is moments of focus, and we'll get into that in detail in a few minutes. Okay, So here's another example. Here's an example of design that isn't being used in the best way. For one thing, if you'll notice on the side, there's a scroll button, which is kind of an odd choice. It's not a very big offer. There doesn't seem to be any need for there to be a scroll bar here, and yet there is, which is just kind of a strange decision to make. If you look at the top, there's this bar of black, which, first of all, has no appeal on its own, and also cuts off the top of the offer design. Also a strange choice, also says to the viewer that not a lot of thought was put into this, and there was no attempt to make this beautiful and appealing. So that does not maximize conversions. I also want to draw your attention here to the CTA, which says click here now. Now, that's a pretty unclear CTA. I don't know what happens when I click here, okay? Because this message is not connected to the message of the offer, which is a free $10 gas card. A better choice here might be get card, okay? Or something that clearly reflects the rest of the content in this offer. Let's look at another example, okay? There are a number of problems here. The first is visually, this is simply not an appealing offer, okay? It looks like it was sort of cut out of a newspaper and slapped onto the website. It doesn't have anything visually appealing about it, and it just sort of looks a little bit random. Another issue here is with the copy, okay? Trading in coupon. I don't really know what that means. It sounds like trade-in, but it might not be trade-in. It might be something else. And if you look at the call to action, it actually does not clear up any of the confusion. Get the dealer offer, right? What's the offer? What is the offer for? What am I getting? Okay, so there are a lot of things that could really have been done better here. And the other thing to notice is this pop-up in the lower right-hand corner that's appearing at the same time, right? We spoke about having multiple offers appear simultaneously. That can really throw off the viewer, that can confuse them, distract them. Okay, so that's something that is also not what you want to go for. So that brings us to this offer, and I want to talk here first about what a moment of focus is. We brought up earlier the idea of a moment of focus, and here's really a good example of it. The previous two offers did not have moments of focus, and this offer does. If you notice, the dealership website is sort of blacked out and blurred in the background, and what it does is draw the eye into the center where the visitor can really focus on this offer and decide if it's valuable to them or not. Okay, so it really gets the visitor to focus in that moment, to make that decision, and not have other offers or pop-ups sort of pulling at their attention at the same time. It's a really good way to get that moment. Other positive things about this pop-up, for one thing, you'll notice that the colors and branding are really consistent. You can see the offer, the yellows and oranges are the same as the dealership design behind it. And that's really good. That's really useful for the customer because they see that there's consistency, right? Your website visitors don't want to feel like the offers on your website are random and unconnected to the rest of your content. So here, everything looks clean, everything looks consistent, and that really inspires confidence in your website viewers. You'll also note here that the fields are very simple to fill out. The photo is very simple and appealing. Okay, so this is a good example of a pop-up in terms of design. Moving on to our next feature, okay, which is value. And it might sound obvious that your pop-ups should offer something of value to your customer, but it really bears repeating, okay, that they need to show your customer something that they actually want. Okay, and one thing to note about value that we'll get into is that it is variable, right? Not everything is valuable to the same customer in the same way. But you might want to start here and understand what's not valuable to anyone. Okay, so here's another example of a pop-up that I saw in my research that appeared the moment I arrived on site. And it says, "We value your feedback. Would you please answer a few short questions to help us improve our website?" Now think about this for a second. This does not offer any value to the customer. They just arrived on site. What they want is to research cars, and instead they get this pop-up saying, please do a survey on this website, which they can't even do because they've been on the website for so little time, they don't know anything about the website. Okay, so it's not even valuable for the dealership. It's certainly not valuable for the customer who can't get what they want. Okay, and if you think about what's valuable for the customer as well, a pop-up that appears like this immediately with no context does not take into account what the visitor is interested in, what their behavior is on your site, and that's something we're going to get to right now. Okay, so here are 3 different offers, and when we talk about value, okay, we can see here that different customers value different things, and the goal is to be able to give each customer something that they value. For example, somebody who's interested in leasing, and we know this because of their behavior on your site, will be shown an offer for leasing. Somebody who's demonstrated price sensitivity, who shows that they're interested in a budget vehicle, can be offered some kind of offer or content related to a budget vehicle. And if we look at a VDP-specific shopper, meaning somebody who's returned a number of times, is shopping for a specific vehicle, okay, that person can then see an offer related to that particular vehicle, really maximizing on what that shopper considers valuable. And that takes us to smart targeting, okay? And when we talk about targeting, what we mean is taking all this content on your site, all these offers, pop-ups, overlays, and making sure that they are being shown to the right people at the right time. So smart targeting technology can be really helpful in tracking user behavior on your site and showing people offers what they want to see when they want to see them. So this really speaks to 2 things. It speaks to relevance and it speaks to timing. Okay? When we talk about relevance, we mean something that they want to see, something that appeals to them, that's valuable to them, that's in line with their shopping stage and interests. And when we talk about timing, we're talking about the perfect time, the optimal time to show somebody an offer. I mentioned earlier that a lot of the pop-ups I saw appeared immediately when I arrived on site. That is usually not a good idea. Before somebody has had a chance to orient themselves, to figure out what's on your site, to figure out what they're interested in, that's not a good time to show somebody an offer. Better to wait, to observe their behavior on your site, to get a sense of what they want, and then after they've done that research, to sort of capitalize on that building interest and show them something that's actually extremely valuable. This is especially important when we think about personalization. And a lot of research has now been done to the effects of personalization, to the desire of shoppers to have a personalized website experience, to such an extent that 74% of online shoppers get frustrated when the content they see is not relevant to their interests. That is a really important statistic. People really do not want to see things that they're not interested in. Conversely, they really do want to see things that they are interested in. And almost half of them are willing to spend more money when they get that personalized shopping experience on your website. So these are important things to keep in mind as you try to reach customers with content that they want to see when they want to see it. Okay, so here are some examples of these particular offers that you might show to different people. Here's one on a particular VDP, okay, so on a particular vehicle. So you might show this to somebody who has been at this vehicle's VDP a number of times. It's very clear. It's something that's valuable to them. It is, however, not valuable, for example, to somebody who is a first-time visitor to your website who doesn't really know what they want. That shopper would be much better served with something like this, okay, which is a broad dealership sale and might catch the attention of somebody who's still in that early stage, who's still shopping around, who doesn't really know what they want yet, but definitely wants to hear about your special offers. Again, this should not be shown the second they arrive on site, but after giving them a little bit of time to get oriented, to see if they're interested in anything, and to keep interacting with your brands and with your content to see if they'd like to move forward. So finally, our last aspect of good pop-ups, mobile optimization. Okay, so it's really important to keep in mind that more than half of new vehicle shoppers are using their mobile device. That means they really need to be able to get what they want on your mobile site. Okay, so that includes functionality and design. So everything that we spoke about earlier about users interacting with your pop-ups, with the design being appealing, that needs to be true on mobile as well. Another aspect is what we call fat finger friendly, and what we mean by that is the ability to fill out fields without sitting for a long time being completely still. Okay, so think about somebody who's shopping on their mobile phone. They might be in transit, they might be on their way to work, on a bus or a train, they might have to move around a lot. So make sure that filling out your forms is really easy and doesn't require them to sit still. The final aspect is Google compliance. So you probably know, and you probably have already been dealing in some way with the fact that about 2 months ago, Google implemented some new rules for mobile, which essentially boil down to you can't have content that covers all of you can't have a pop-up that covers all of your content, and if so, your search rankings will suffer. So here's an example of how you might do mobile in a compliant and appealing way. So if you look at the screen all the way on the left, the top has the offer, which is quite small, and that's Google compliant because it doesn't cover all of the content on the screen. An interested customer can click for details. When they do, the offer expands, and that's allowed once they indicate their offer. If they click Get Offer, the pop-up collects their information and then thanks them for it. At any point, they can click X, no thanks, I'm not interested. Okay, so this is one way that you can really do mobile offers in an effective and Google compliant way. Okay, so we've spoken so far about making sure that your pop-ups are done well, making sure that they have the best aspects to them, and that they're able to engage people in a positive way. And one thing that I think is important to emphasize is that the opposite, right, not using pop-ups can actually be a huge missed opportunity. Okay, so we talked at the beginning about how pop-ups can be so annoying, but if they're not annoying and they actually are valuable, not using them can be a mistake. And here's an example of when I thought that not using pop-ups was a mistake. Okay, so take a look at this website, a really nice Mercedes website, very appealing. Okay, the photos are really nice. And if you look at the offer along the bottom of the screen, which is not a pop-up, okay, it's a really good offer. It's really clear. It has a clear monthly price, right? That's something that a visitor would be interested in. But when you click View Offer Details, this is where you go. Okay, you end up on this page that has a ton of fine print. This is not what most people want to spend their time reading. Okay, they're not going to want to sit there and read through all these details, right? And the other thing is that after they've come to this page, what should they do then, right? This would have been a great opportunity, instead of linking to a page full of fine print, to take this offer, put a couple of fields in it, right? Name, email, phone number, have your salesperson call this customer and talk about the sales and get that conversation going, move that customer forward. And instead, you know, you gave them homework. So that's not going to be as effective. That would have been a great chance to use an effective pop-up. Okay, so to sort of summarize, back up, give us an overview of what we've spoken about today. The benefits of effective pop-ups are really positive for customers and for dealerships. For customers, they're going to have a better user experience. That's what they're really looking for. They're going to have a more personalized shopping experience, and we know that shoppers are really interested in that today, which of course will translate into the dealership to a broader reach, the ability to connect to more customers, and ultimately more leads, right? We know that typically on websites, on dealership websites, more than 90% of visitors leave before converting to a lead. What we often see at Auto Lead Star, as we mentioned earlier, is that with an effective pop-up campaign, dealership websites can boost their lead capture by 30%. Okay, so it can really be an effective way to reach more people and get more leads. So at Auto Lead Star, we really spend a lot of our time crafting these pop-ups, optimizing them so that they're extremely effective on dealership websites. And we'd like to offer all our webinar participants a free 30-day trial. See how a great pop-up strategy can work for your dealership. So we'd love to set up a demo for you. Call us or email us with our number and email address on the screen. And we'd like to thank all of you for joining us today. We hope you learned a lot about how pop-ups can really be a great way to improve your website, how when they're done well, they can be a huge benefit and have a ton of potential for increasing your lead capture and making your website as great as it can be. Thank you so much to everyone. Hope to hear from you soon.